Well, hello traders and investors, I'm Elliot Little. This is your daily NeoTA wrap where we talk about these markets. We look at them from a neoclassical perspective. We figure out supply and demand as we see it on the charts, and we make trades off of that. We share that information with members. If you want to join, if you want to see how we do it, just give me a call and I can work you through it. There's my email, there's my name. If you're interested, pop me a message. As far as what happened in these markets, let's take a look at them. It was a little bit of a topsy-turvy day. Dow Jones, S&P, the NASDAQ, up and down, pretty much followed each other. NASDAQ was having some trouble towards the end of the day, but overall, slightly higher by the end of the day, nothing big. Take a look at the world markets here. For the most part on the world markets, you had an up day. Switzerland down a little bit, same thing with Argentina, but elsewhere pretty much higher across the board. Same thing on the currencies, pretty much flat, and bonds a little bit of outperformance on the long end of the curve. Looking at the charts, S&P, here it goes, climbing up towards the top of the range. That range previously, we had this little range in here. Pretty much held price, a little bit of an extension to the downside one day, tested again there 2 days back. That gave us the push back to the top side, and here we are at the top side. We tested outside that range once, now we're outside that range again. Question is can it hold? And my suspicion is it probably won't. Tomorrow you got earnings coming out of the banking stocks, and that's going to be a big piece of information as to where we go next. If we look at over to the NASDAQ, the NDX, pretty much the same case over here. Had a range here, tried to break it out, couldn't. Hasn't been able to make any nominal new highs, but certainly heading back up there to try. The NDX looks almost the same. If we move over to the Russell's got the same sort of thing, right? It's range, range, range. You got the range down here, and you're pushing it about right there, and you're coming up to the top. You've tried to break out, and gets pushed back each time. So far on the bottom side, not much has happened. If you tightened it up and said the range was here, then you might have had a nominal new low there. But for the most part, it's ranges, folks. It's been ranges. I've been telling members that for a long time. Matter of fact, if you look at the Russell and some of the others, you'll see it's been a bias to the upside, but for the most part, it has been a range and a range all the way through. And for a long period of time here, when you look at the Russell, we'll go back to December. The big spike up, right, and then sideways. And so if I draw it out, big spike up off of the election, and then after that, just sideways. Okay, what else? What else is about earnings? And it's about what's going to happen in that earnings season that's probably going to drive this market next. You've already had, I'm looking at the financials here. You've already had the ABCD structure up to there, back down, and back up again, right? That completed. When it completed, it started going sideways. Question is this going to be able to break out of what has become a little small range up here now? Or is this thing going to fall back? Now, if it falls back, right, it's probably a potential buy back into this area because it's more than 6 bars up here. And so when I look at this market, and I look at the way things are set up, I ask myself, are we going to get some sort of a pullback in the financials? And given the weighting in the financials, that's probably not going to be a good thing. In other words, the market's certainly not going to break out and run. Moving over to technology and trying to gauge, what's next. When I look at the technology sector, here the range is huge, right? And inside that, about halfway through is about right in there. And it just peaked over today, but you did get a little doji today on that peak. And so I'm wondering if that's going to be some sort of a reversal there. Now, it doesn't have to be, horrible. In other words, this is just come back and look at that gap. We could do that here. We could do it on the indexes as well. But again, you've had a nice extension, nice run up, right? Now you get the earnings coming out. You finally get the news. Is it going to be a sell the news? If I look at some of the other big sectors in terms of weighting, here's discretionary. Gets over, back under. Did have a little bit more volume, but this one's struggling, right? It's not just taking off. Healthcare, another big one. Healthcare tried to push up today, ended up with a doji, had more volume. unclear as to what that one means, right? I can't tell if it's going to come back or not. Right now, I'm kind of leaning towards it going higher. Looking at the industrials, right? Industrials yesterday failed on this breakout. It was to the penny. Today, fails again. So it's a test failure of a high, basically. That says you should pull back. And so we're getting more and more of these telling us, hey, this thing just may come back. Here's the durables. They can't go anywhere. Energy. Let's see what energy did today. I didn't even look at it. Energy still can bounce a little bit more, but energy struggling. Basic materials, test failure at the top. Well, not quite. Didn't quite get to the top. 5522. No, not quite. So we can actually test again, but it did give an over/under, which could also preclude a pullback the other way. Semiconductors. Remember, they sold off hard. They've been making the run. What do they do today? They make a high of 14916. So they get over yesterday's high, back under it, a little bit less volume. That one looks like it's ready to come back. And so as I flip through these, I see more and more of these sectors telling me, yeah, ready to come back. And what that suggests to me is that probably we're going to see a sell the news tomorrow on these markets. Got one here as well. So my take is look for this market to try and pull back tomorrow off those earnings. And that would not be, it would not be a terrible thing. It would be a normal thing in this environment. My expectation is that's more of that range to come. And, the financials probably are going to be the ones. As a matter of fact, usually the big cap financials are the ones that do the best. And so if they start off weak, that may be precluding a great earnings season, because the bar really hasn't been lowered this time around, which is usually the case. So that's my take. I suspect we'll see some selling. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Good night.